Hello, welcome to Tuesday. I wanted to do a little take on the book face challenge. It's the this case it's the DVD face or Blu-ray face. Um, I'm Liz, one of the Derry Public Library's resident film nerds and definitely trash and cult film expert, and one of our reference librarians. And this is what my partner and I are currently quarantining with the big Godzilla box set. So figured that would be fun. Welcome to Tuesday, meaning welcome to what's on Netflix. As usual, there is a lot on there, and probably of all of the um, streaming options, probably has like the most variety. Prime has my heart, but I do know that for mainstream picks and normal people who don't like watching weird stuff from the early 80s, Netflix is probably the most accessible for everybody. So mix of fiction, documentary, and TV series today. The first I'm going to start with is a movie that I don't want to say saved sci-fi, but saved the genre of sci-fi known as cyberpunk, and that is 1999's The Matrix. So I remember when this came out, when the advertising campaign started, and we were really not sure what this was. And it was kind of the mystery of this and the idea of, oh, this plot sounds cool, which kind of drove a lot of us to go see it. And it became a phenomenon, spawning two not very great sequels. But I will go to bat for some of the segments of the Animatrix are really good. And it put filmmakers Lily and Lana Wachowski on the map. There is going to be a fourth Matrix, and I'm actually very happy about it. I mean, most of the cast is coming back, but if you want to see a movie that not only revitalized sci-fi in American cinema, but revitalized action movies, the Matrix is good from a film history standpoint, and also totally holds up as a good sci-fi story. Going off of the Wachowski sisters, I'm going to recommend a series of theirs, the series Sense8. This came out in 2015 and very quickly developed a very devoted following. Me being one of them. It is it's actually where I would say this shows that the Wachowskis, they work best in TV series format. I think they have so many ideas and so many things they want to do. It's better that they're working with multiple episodes rather than a 2-hour movie. So the gist of Sense8 is there are 8 people. They were all born same time, same day, same year, and they have a mental link with each other. And they're all over the world. And so they can basically share each other's skills. They can read each other's thoughts. And the community that they form is very wonderful. It's a really, at its core, a series about love and companionship and the community that you can find with people outside of your your own localized circle. And I think that especially right now, it is a wonderful series to go and revisit. Because I think, especially with what both Wachowski sisters have been through, what with coming out, or in the case of Lily being outed as transgender, they're very I think they're very focused on the idea of finding love and finding people who care for you. So again, I think the core of the series is love and friendship. So I would definitely recommend Sense8. That's Sense and then 8, the number. I will say, slight content warning, definitely sex in this, but it is all between consenting adults. But if you have 5-year-olds, I don't want to show them that. So going back to another classic, not a little bit older than The Matrix, Back to the Future. This is a movie that everyone loves, and it's on Netflix. So, film confession, I actually did not see Back to the Future in its entirety until last year. And you know what? It holds up in terms of the hype. I think it's a really charming movie. Michael J. Fox is just made for this role. So if you have not seen Back to the Future, or you want to go watch it again as a comfort food type of thing, now's the time. It's on Netflix. If you want something that's also kind of in the vein of sort of a comfort food, I would recommend the Netflix original movie To All the Boys I Loved Before. This is based off of a young adult novel, and I think the adaptation is really good. It is about young love, and I, being an old crone, don't understand that anymore. But I think there's a lot of empathy to this. I am always a sucker for movies that portray teen girls not as sociopathic snark monsters, but as actual real people. And I think this movie gives a lot of depth to all of its characters. Um, Next, a slightly controversial pick. I am going to pick The Artist. In sort of film circles, especially when you talk about Oscar winners, this movie gets a lot of hate. And while I don't think it was the strongest movie to come out in 2011, I could probably list 5 other movies off the top of my head that came out that year. Most of them weren't nominated, or, you know, A Separation came out that year and only got Best Foreign Film. Anywho, I do think The Artist is a good movie, and it commits to its gimmick. It's about a silent film actor, so the film is filmed like a silent movie. I think it's still a good experiment. I think it pays off. And I think it shows people that you don't need to be afraid of silent movies. There are a lot of good silent films out there. So if this encourages people to, let's say, go check out Metropolis, I'm all for it. Up next, a bit of, not a downer, but definitely a heavy watch. 2015's Room. This is an adaptation of, in my opinion, the great Emma Donoghue novel. It stars Brie Larson, her pre-Captain Marvel breakout role as a woman who's been held captive for 7 years, and she has a 5-year-old son whom, to kind of protect him from the reality of their situation, tells them there's no world outside of Room, this shack that she is being held captive in. When situations change, she has to utilize her son to help get out, and the entire second half of the movie is them adjusting to their life out of captivity. Brie Larson gives an amazing performance. Also, low-key, great performance by Joan Allen. I love seeing her in movies. Just be sure to have some tissues handy. So again, not speaking of movies that were completely ignored at the Oscars for 2011, Drive. I loved this movie. This might be my favorite Ryan Gosling movie. It is a fan of Michael Mann's Thief, in certain like not heist movies, but sort of a look inside of the criminal enterprise and life movies. Drive is for you. It is stylish. It is well directed. It has amazing cinematography, great performances, not just by Gosling, but by Albert Brooks and Bryan Cranston. It is fantastic. One of the best debut features I've seen from any director. Nicholas Winding Refn. I think I'm saying that name right. Unfortunately, I haven't liked his other movies, but Drive is a masterpiece. And if you haven't seen it, I would check it out. So we're going to go into foreign film for a little bit. I mentioned on my Freebie Friday a few weeks ago this documentary called This Is Nollywood, which is about the Nigerian film industry. So I'm going to recommend a Nollywood film, and this is called Love is War. And it's a comedy drama about a husband and wife, and they both are running for governor of their state. It's a pretty kind of standard comedy drama with romantic tension, but if you want a good look at what's coming out of Nigerian cinema, I would take a look at this. And this is an area where I think Netflix really excels, is they have a lot of it, and they distribute a lot of these movies from around the world. So, you know, rather than just watching The Twilight Zone for the 10th time, Liz, maybe go see maybe watch a foreign movie. Next 2 movies, more kid-oriented. I do know that some people with children watch this. The first I'm going to recommend is The Adventures of Tintin. This was also from 2011. And this is the kind of computer-animated take, but if you're a fan of Tintin, this is just a love letter to those novels, graphic novels. And it also doesn't have a lot of the kind of cringy racism of some of those novels. I love those Tintin novels, but even I look at some of them and I'm like, oh, that was clearly written a long time ago. So this is an action adventure movie, which is up there with all the best. I would say watch it. And, you know, it's a good introduction to the Tintin stories. The other is an animated film called Song of the Sea. So you might not have heard of this one. It's from Ireland by Cartoon Saloon, and it's all hand-drawn. It's about a little boy who realizes his sister might have a little bit of a supernatural side to her. Very kid-friendly, and it's beautiful. And unfortunately, at least in the United States, hand-drawn animation for film is becoming an extinct art. So I think anything we can do to support animation that is hand-drawn, I would say do what you can. I mean, luckily it's surviving in other parts of the world. So my final recommendation is a documentary. It is a documentary called I Am Divine. So you might have heard of Divine. You've probably seen pictures. If you know who John Waters is, you know who Divine is. Divine was an actor, played by an actor named Glenn Milstead, but Divine was his persona that he would act as in many movies. Pink Flamingos, which I'm not recommending to you guys unless you really want to try that. I would, however, recommend Hairspray from 1988 and Polyester from 1981. And he became, after he got his break in the John Waters movies, but became kind of a little icon in the 80s. And what you get from watching this is not just the novelty of, oh, this was a guy who kind of did drag performance. You also get a portrait of someone who thankfully, very young, found friends who accepted him, because being an overweight gay man in the 60s is probably not easy. So you found someone who thankfully had friends, who loved acting and took his job seriously, and someone who was actually looking to transition is just acting as Glenn Milstead and not just the Divine persona. And you also get a portrait of a very sweet man who would spoil his friends and send their children presents from all over the world. So if the only thing you do know about Divine is kind of the caricatured look, or you've just heard Pink Flamingos, this is actually a very good documentary to watch because you get to see the person behind the persona. And I think sometimes when we talk about celebrities, we forget the human behind everything. So thank you for watching these. Hopefully you'll check one of them out, and I will see you tomorrow with What's on Prime.